Welcome back to another Uncommon Man podcast where we help legendary men live uncommon lives by eliminating and avoiding burnout and experiencing what it is to lean into their potential, have amazing relationships, awesome business and career. So guys, welcome. This is Roscoe Patterson. I'm really excited to have him on today. What you will get from this video and from this podcast is a clear understanding of how to minimize the working hours for busy business owners, how to engineer your current business so it flows effortlessly, and learn how to have more time enjoying the things you love doing, which is one of the reasons why we often take the risk of building our own business in the first place. And I think that's probably one of the really important things that we often forget. Now, before we do dive in with Roscoe and have him walk us through really how he took one of his clients from a 25-hour process, which to me is, that's a large portion of your week, down to an 11-minute one. So I'm really excited to hear how you've done that with your clients, what you do, and in this new technological age of, I feel like we're having the internet experience all over again with AI and functionalities and efficiency. So I'm really excited to hear your opinion on a lot of things. But can you give me an idea, like who's Roscoe? Who are you?
So I have spent pretty much all of my time since I was a young fella in technology in one way, shape, form, or another. Like I have a pretty clear memory of my dad, who's a builder, actually, interestingly. Right. He bought a Commodore 64 and he came home one day to discover his young fella had pulled apart this brand new computer that he spent thousands of dollars on, and I had it spread across the table. And, I was like 5 years old and I'm like pulling things apart, and I put it all back together and it turned back on and it works. So
wow.
not like I speak the language of tech. It's my thing. Anyway, fast forward, my first business, first brick and mortar business was I had a couple of internet cafes. This was before, of course, the iPhone came out. As soon as that came out, I exited those. I've been in marketing and business and entrepreneurial ways in many different ways, and even had a startup myself over the years. But I spent the last, I think it's like 4 months just in my cave here, unpacking what I think we can do with this really cool tech that we have right now. And doing some case studies, one that you just spoke about, which is engineering tasks so they can be done like uber efficiently so we can get our time back for sure.
I think I'm so excited about this. One, because I think it'll impact me personally, but like one of the biggest things I can do for clients is like, how do we get back your time? How do we make you more efficient just by adjusting your thinking, by giving you more energy, all those aspects. But what is interesting, looking back in hindsight, you see the invention of the internet and it came through, and rather than going, okay, cool, we have the internet, we can do more things and we can get faster at things, and we can do all this so we can work less. It was like, no, produce more. Like now we've got a chance to do more profit, more things. And I'm like, have we been smart enough to learn from that for the current business owners coming into this new world of AI, this new world of efficiencies? Will they ask better questions? Will they be like, right, okay, are we going to go for more? Or am I finally going to go, cool, can I finally get that time, that reason why I set up this business, to go and spend time with my loved ones? I recently had a son, and I'm like, there's nothing more awesome than getting out of my office, running in and having a quick 10-minute break and be like, hey, you going, buddy? And he's smiling away. And I'm like, will the guys make that? Can you give me some idea of the clientele that you've worked with, but more an understanding of like the problems that they're facing?
It's various sort of entrepreneurs in various entrepreneurial settings, and there's things that are front of house and back of house. So there's been a couple of hundred use cases, but the main thing that's been showing up is that everything we do, we have a particular flavor of how we do it in our own businesses. Each one of you, the people you work with, they have a way in which they do things. and that way is currently mostly unconscious. It's mostly just knowledge in their head, and it's existed there for, you know, decades. They've been doing this thing and they do it a particular way, and they don't even remember necessarily how they ended up doing it that way, but it's usually a series of, you know, unfortunate events that led to them, you know, doing invoicing a certain way or doing this a certain way, so that they don't have dramas or excess pressure or all these kind of things, these like micro distinctions that they go through. So I'm saying all of that to say that basically anything that is a task is really what I'm touching. You know, anything that is a complex task is the edges of what we can touch with AI. With the other superpower that I bring to the table is not just AI, but instructional design. And this is the process of understanding how to unpack something so you can get any old person to do something. And in this case, the someone to do the something can be AI, which is really cool, you know. So that's kind of the landscape lens.
You've kind of, I feel like you've encompassed things that that my clients bring across the table as challenges. Instructional design.
Yeah.
What is that? Like, what is that?
It's, you know, there's like, and I'm not an instructional design nerd. I'm nerding out on it at the moment, but it's basically like people who write processes, people who design the way in which you do stuff. Like you think about McDonald's, for example, you know, billion-dollar corporation run by teenagers with pimply faces, you know, like
that's a valid point. Yep.
and it's because they documented systems and processes and learnt how to transfer capacity and capability to get someone to push the button at the right time, to do the thing, to do the step, right? And they took complex things like running a fast food restaurant at scale, which is spinning and juggling a lot of things. You look at most restaurateurs that don't have those processes and systems, they're running around like blue ass flies. Like they're just like, you know, what's going on, don't know what's coming at them. And the reality is that they're doing a whole bunch of things really well. And then there's lots of good operators out there that can just juggle things and spin plates and do all of that and do a really good job. But it's fully reliant on them being on the tools. It's fully reliant on them being there 100%, you know. And instructional design is the way out. It's the ladder that one step at a time you can build yourself a process to get out of those roles in your business, you know.
So what I find with guys in this space, myself included, by the way, I always say, look, the biggest roadblock in your business is always going to be you. And 100%. We have this assumption. I'm like, I'm too important. I'm too special. You can't replace me. Therefore, I need to do everything, you know, right? I can't put this into a system. Somebody else is not going to do it well enough. What do you say to those guys?
Let me tell you a tangent on track story.
Yeah.
So I had a guy that I learned a lot of instructional design off smack me in the face with something once. He said, like, how did you do that thing? And he was trying to help me unpack a bit of IP. And I'm like, oh, it was just intuition. And he's like, bullshit. Intuition doesn't exist. I'm like, what? Hold on. surely intuition, like gut feeling, like surely this stuff exists. He's like, yeah, and you're having a momentary insight or piece of intuition because you had decades of encountering this problem before, and you have piles and piles and piles of principles and distinctions and reasoning as to why you do something a certain way. And then you have this moment and you call it intuition, but you're kind of just calling it that so that you don't have to think about that pile of distinctions and processes and all of those experiences you had. You're just calling it a gut reaction. And the truth is that gut reaction is just like a zip file. It's like compressed information that's just like, yes, no, you know, like, let's do this thing this way, which is cool. And it's also like, if you unzip it and take the time to unpack it and understand how you do something, you can get anybody to do any task. And we have too many billion-dollar corporations that prove that point, like that prove that point through systems. The thing is that not that you're not magical and not that your context isn't special. It is both of those things, but it's taking the time to freeze frame by freeze frame, slow down a process to make it as good as you, so that anybody can reproduce the same result as you. And it's very doable. It's actually very doable. It's just a process to learn how to make these processes.
Now, you've used a word that scares the shit out of most business owners. Takes time. I don't have time. Roscoe, I don't have time to do these things to get myself more time.
So the thing you said to me before, let me tell you about this time that it takes, right?
Yeah.
Remember you said the example that we turned a 25-hour task into an 11-minute task.
Yeah.
So it took us time to do that. It took us 2.5 to 3 hours to engineer that process, but we didn't have to do the 25 hours. So we still saved time. Even though it took time, it was nominal, it was a fair exchange of time.
That is fantastic.
Let me tell you the story of that, just so everyone has context. So basically, a mate of mine is a consultant, does a lot of pitching for tendering and request for quote type work, in the process. Yep. And that's what we systemized. That's what we spent the time on. And this particular process, it's a consulting firm, and it usually, works with regulators and big institutional operators. So it has to have a project plan, a project budget, and a project timeline. 3 documents it has to output. And my mate, she's really, really good at writing these documents. It just takes her time because she has to think through all of the dependencies, all of the things that could happen, all of the milestones. She needs to break it down. Then she needs to pitch it in such a way that it's hitting the mark. And she needs to make sure that it's going to, meet where she thinks the budget is. It's a complex process, right? And as tendering and quoting is, and you have all of these moving parts. And the thing is that we could go, when I asked her what she did in this 2.5 hours, this is what it looked like, right? I said, okay, so walk me through it. How do you do this? Like I just did the broad ass question to begin with. And we listed all the things out that she did. I'm like, anything else, anything else, anything else? And there was a bunch more things. And then we started to try and do it as per her list. And I was like, oh, no, I can't do that because it's missing X. Oh, no, I can't do that because it's missing Y. I have to go do this thing and this thing. And it's just this, it's literally like a process lobotomy. It's very joyful. Okay. It's like getting into the weeds and going, okay, being a fuddy-duddy and going, okay, this is why I do this thing this way. This is why I send this thing this way. And it's really understanding the why of each and everything. It's understanding exactly what you're doing with each thing. It's understanding how you do it. And then what do you do next? And keeping it on that train. And it's really just unpacking things piece by piece by piece. Anyway, so the process we did with her was pull it all out, that mess. You start with a mess, and you try and recreate the result with the mess by following the process, and you quickly find the gaps. But you'll also find the very next thing we found was a lot of extra steps that were actually unnecessary, that she just kept doing for years and years and years because she did it once in one proposal. And so the way you test for that is you pull things out one at a time until the process breaks. So you try and minimize it as well. So you don't just get everything out. You also try and reduce it, boil it down, and just make it, tasty gravy, just as rich as you can, and just what you need, nothing else, So that was cool. And then we had the process clear, like in a paper model, just like a manual version going, okay, yep, that would work. That would reproduce the results. That's when we took it over to the AI, when we understood the task really clearly. We understood the clear recipe. And then we went over to AI and we were like, okay, let's start trying. And it's called prompt engineering with AI. Let's start trying to tell the AI to produce these outcomes explicitly the way we want them. And that is just like a rapid process of going, ask it to do it this way, see what it produces. It kind of produces okay results. Okay, let's change the way we ask. Let's ask it to do it this way. Do that, change it again. And it's just, dude, it's like, it's as simple as I'm saying it is. It's just work. It's just, you just got to do it, It's just like a hole. You got to dig the fucking thing. It ain't digging itself.
And it's funny, I was going to say, has any of these conversations come to blows yet? People are like, you just destroyed my process. Oh, bloody hell, I forgot this thing. I forgot that thing. I can understand the frustration of someone who's going, God, like the tension that builds. And I'm always talking to my guys about tension. I'm like, you're going to lean in, man. Lean into the tension, because there's beautiful things that come from that. I mean, you're talking, like, I can feel the frustration rising when you're going through a process and you're like, fuck, that's right, that doesn't work. I forgot about those 11 pieces. And then to come out the other side and be like, you're holding a golden egg. You're holding the goose, really. And then it's just time and time again, it keeps producing. And man, I am so excited about the creativity that's going to come out of people because they have more time and the problems they will solve. I love entrepreneurs. I love business owners because they're like, that's a problem, I'm going to fix it. They're creative people, even though they may find themselves that I'm not very creative. I'm like, you built a business, mate. Like you solved a problem. You're creative. Yeah. What do you find in terms of, I guess, have you found there's a bit of a roadblock for people to get into that thinking process of breaking their system down?
Yeah, I mean, what I just explained was I just said, go do a marathon, and you haven't trained yet. I just said, like, you run straight into the gauntlet, boys. So totally there's a way to do it easier when you're starting out. And it is a muscle to build. Like, it's a muscle to build, to think about these things this way. And I think the simplest thing you can do with any process is just get your phone and just literally take photos step by step. And just tell yourself a photo story. Like, okay, even if you're sitting down to do a quoting process, like many builders, for example, they would go about that process entirely differently depending on who their subbies are and what all the relationships they have and all this kind of stuff. You have a process that doesn't fit into a cookie cutter process necessarily. So just imagine that you're documenting, like just taking one photo at a time of each step and trying to keep it as simple as just trying to take a photo of each step. And a step is like you're doing something and then you've finished doing that. Now you're doing something else. And if there's anything in between the doing this and then doing this, take a photo of that too. What do I mean by that? Well, if I was going to dig a hole, I'd get the tools out of the truck. I'd put them beside the job. I'd maybe mark where I'm going to dig. So I'd take photos of how I'm doing that. Like, just break it down into freeze frames. Think of it like frame by frame. And that's all a process is. It's frame by frame recreating everyone's genius. And when you think about it through like the idea of a photo, you're just literally going, okay, that's what I did. That's how I did my magic. Anyone who thinks they're too special to share what it is they do, if we took a video of them doing it and freezed every frame and asked ourselves the question, we could probably reproduce the same result.
I think you've hit on probably one of the key points in how important you are in this scenario, because you mentioned the unconscious earlier. We just go through things, and you mentioned, I mark out the hole that I'm going to dig. Most people just do that automatically and they're off. And they haven't even thought about that was a step. That was a step. And you can imagine on a much bigger scale how important your questioning is, or the process that you take people through, just to bring those thoughts from the back of the mind into the front of the mind. Oh, yeah, right. You're right. At that point, that's what I did. So, I can see how important it is.
I was in front of a group of people talking about this recently, and there was a guy who had a screen door installation company, and we were doing a bit of a hot seat with him. And he said to me, I'm like, I've had some guys that, I could never fucking get them to reproduce the results I produce or whatever. And I'm like, okay, give me the name of your worst guy ever. And he gave me the name Brady. And I'm like, okay, Brady the tradie. Okay, so now what I want you to do is I want you to invent systems that are step by step, that you capture everything. So even Brady can't screw it up. And what I love about this frame of reference is everyone's had a guy that works for them. They're like, I never want any of them ever again.
Yeah.
That's what you want to do, is you want to build it like battle-proof for the worst person you've ever hired. And when you think about a system at that level, starting to design for the worst common denominator kind of thing.
You've kind of hit something that I find really important. I literally hopped off with one of our guys the other day. We call him the Sage. He's one of our older gentlemen. He's a smart dude. He's built a cool business. He lives a pretty beautiful life. But it's this idea of things that are built for a solution, and they usually cover like 80 to 90% of the processes that you need. Maybe it's quoting, maybe it's something. It doesn't quite nail it. And I always say, look, you're going to end up with some sort of Frankenstein. You're going to have maybe 3 or 4 different softwares that plug in, that do their one thing. What do you say to the guy who says, look, for this guy I quote this way, for this guy I quote this way. I've got quite a unique, special system that varies a lot. Will this even work for me?
Yeah, I would think that, what you just described to me, how my brain instantly thinks about it just to react to it directly, is the first system to build there is a triage system of what type of quote is this? Which way am I going to send this traffic? Am I going to send this down the cost plus path, or am I going to send this down fixed price path? Like, which type of, have a system for triage that comes before the other system, and just have that as a quick little, am I sending it this way or that way? That's how I think about problems like that.
That's so simple. That's so simple and powerful. Easy. Okay, so it goes, you might have built multiple, let's use quoting systems. You might have 3 different quoting systems. They've all got similarities, so it's easy enough to build. And then you're like, okay, this one's for a friend, this one's for a cost plus, this one's for some big company or whatever. They go down the 3 different paths. That's really neat.
Yeah.
What do you use a vast array of subscriptions and AIs for yours, or are they individual for different ones? No.
So very simply, I use 3 tools primarily: Google Suite, ChatGPT, and I use Make.com for AI automations. And so the reason I keep it very simple is that there will be better tools and better stacks than what I just said to you in time. But this isn't a time for selecting the best tool. We're in a time where AI is moving so rapidly. This is a time for getting your skills refined. Like, we know that the best chippy in the world, he's better than any hammer that he's using. Do you know what I mean? Like, the best chippy in the world, he's got the skills, and he could probably bash a nail in with a brick if he had to. Like, he doesn't like, he's tool agnostic. And I think that's the way to approach this stuff, is keep it simple, stupid. Get good at unpacking. Think about, point this thing the other way. Rather than pointing AI out in the world and going, what can I do with this? Point it into your business and go, what problems, if I solve in my business, would this be powerful for me? And that's where you just keep it simple. Google Doc, ChatGPT, any other software packages you're already using. You don't need to go and change everything. You don't need to retrofit some big expensive installation. Just keep it simple and be in a time of experimentation, learning, play, unpacking, figuring it out. Like, just be in it. That's the most important thing.
Roscoe, I think you've just relieved a huge amount of stress for a lot of people, because they're like, fuck, how do I, you're busy over here running a business. You got staff, you're doing a thing, like, how do I keep up with all the new technology? I'm like, you don't. Wait 5 years, and then the super snazzy model comes out that you care about. We're on like iPhone version 2. Who cares if you got a 2 or a 4? No one gives a crap. Like, in reality, in hindsight. And I just love that simplicity. That's one of the things that has, in the last 12 to 18 months in my own world, has been like, how do I simplify everything that we do to get the gravy, like you said, for our clients, to get the best result as fast as they can? And then how do we deliver it in the most simple way? Like the most simple way. And I'm still simplifying. Like, I'm still eliminating things. I'm like, we're about to eliminate that out of the business, that out of the business, that out of the business. And then how do we, or those 5 things, what were the great things about them? How do we do that with AI? How do we solve that with AI now? Rather than, I think you're right, with people going, AI's out there, I've got to use it, I'll just start using it. Like, no, what is the problem in your business or the thing that you would like to solve, and doing it that way. Right.
I think that needs to be 70% of the attention. 70% of the attention needs to be on like solving problems you have right in front of you and operating your business. 20% needs to be focused on growing it, and 10% you need to allocate to like education, play, experimentation, weird bets. Like you do need to allocate a little bit of time to just fucking around and tinkering. Like, especially thinking of it through a tinkering lens. Like you learn stuff when you treat it like a novel toy, treat it like a Lego set, like treat this BizDoc like you're building your own set of Lego and your own set of instructions, and you're just kind of like recreating it from the ground up. I think that's where to play with it from.
How do people kind of connect with you, find out a little bit more of what you would do would be super helpful for them in their business and getting back their time?
Mainly, I mean, I've got a website, roscoe.co, rassco.co. I am on Facebook a lot. I'm just like I don't have like a snazzy, sexy thing for people to opt into, but what I will say is I'm just a real human. Send me a message, Perfect. Say hi. That's the thing.
I love that. I think there's still this idea of this combo, or this idea of like, I'm going to eliminate everything and just have AI. I'm like, no, it's Iron Man. Like it's the human with all the extra awesomeness. I'm like, just do that. It doesn't have to be. It's never black or white. It's always grey. Like, enjoy the greyness. Totally. Get somebody who can fuck. If you're at the point, get someone who can fuck around and find out in your business for you. Tinkering with the things. Hey, look, this is what we tried this week. This is what I broke. This is what went well. Yeah, I think it's really cool, and I really like that. I'm a human. Send him a message. So those who are listening, please, if you think what Roscoe can do can help you out, I would love to see any business owner with more time so they can spend their time. Our mission is stronger men, strong communities, and you need time for that. Because as soon as somebody has more time, they go out into the community, they talk to their neighbor, they take their kids to sport, they build better families. It's a huge domino effect. So I really do thank you for your work, mate. I really appreciate what you're doing. I think it's awesome. I love who you're helping, and I love how you're doing it. I think it's a really cool time. I think what you're doing is pretty special. It's cool.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, dude.
I have one question for you. Actually, this is a brand new question for I think I'm going to throw it at the end of the podcast from now on. It's like often we get quite deep in some of our work, and people are asking, how do I discover my purpose and who am I? And I figured out the other day, I was like, maybe it's not who you are. Maybe the question is, what are you? So if I was to ask you, what are you? What would you say?
I don't know. Some days I feel like a giant psychedelic mushroom trying to understand the universe. I don't know.
Yes, that's a good answer. I like that. It's a good start. What do you feel like on other days?
Sorry, what was that?
What do you feel like on other days when you're not the psychedelic mushroom?
I don't know. Just a big kid. Just life's an adventure. Like there's nothing better than just, doing stuff you haven't done before. Like I've got a bunch of mates and we hang out and we do stuff together, and we just started this practice where we will do something random for a few weeks together. So we're getting a basketball coach to coach us in basketball for like 4 weeks, and then we'll shift to something else. Who knows? We could be doing synchronized swimming next year. I don't know, but just doing random stuff and having fun, and and not trying to be too serious about it all is important.
I'm glad somebody's doing it. This is one of the things we mentioned at our last event. We were in Byron Bay. We started the morning with sunrise, do some warm-ups, doing some intention setting. It's all very serious stuff. Then we play a game like you're back at high school, and the guys are laughing, playing around, tackling each other. It's a great time. I'm like, never, ever forget that you're here for fun. I think it's one of the 100%. Things about business. We get serious. It's like, God, got to make money, got to get more time, got to do these things, got to solve this problem. I'm like, don't forget to laugh, man. Don't forget to laugh.
Yeah, enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Roscoe, thank you so much for your time, mate. It's really appreciated. I can't wait to get this out and connect with the guys as well. It's going to be great.